Mm-mm. Hey. Wow. Well, I think a lot of people are shocked by the result. Baylor 59, Texas Tech 35. The Red Raiders got, let's face it, they got pushed around yet again. And, I had a bad feeling about this game. I was telling people behind the scenes, I wasn't going to pick against Tech. Their favorite homecoming against a team that had lost 8 consecutive Big 12 games coming into this. Obviously, that's over. Tech was on a 4-game winning streak, but something just felt weird. I thought it was interesting that I asked Texas Tech head coach Joey McGuire at the post-game press conference. I said, your team has been playing really physical. They've been playing with a lot of emotion during the 4-game winning streak, and then today, it really felt like Baylor played with a lot more emotion, a lot more physicality. And I asked him, I said, as the head coach, why do you think that happened? And he said there was a weird energy before the game, and they almost had to he had to tell the guys to take a deep breath because sometimes you get overhyped before the game. Well, they didn't look overhyped during the game. Yeah, it was, people are angry. It was an in-state conference rival, a school and a program that, let's face it, there's no love lost between the two programs, and there's a lot of ties between the two programs with McGuire coming over from Baylor and a lot of players, and Sawyer Robertson, Baylor's quarterback, having gone to Lubbock Coronado, coming back. So there's just a lot of ties between the programs being, again, in-state conference rivals, and a lot, just a lot of hate. And seeing Baylor do Tech dirty the way they did tonight in Lubbock during homecoming was rough. I get why people are mad. I get why people are angry. I get why people. I mean, I feel like if you're a Tech fan, you're not emotional about this game. Then you're not a fanatic. You're not a real fan. So, I was concerned. Whether it be on the radio, I was like, look, I'm picking Tech to win by, basically a score, but because it'd be dumb not to. But from my vantage point, but I have a really bad feeling about the game tonight. And people were like, oh, you're just your Tech PTSD. And I was like, I don't know, man. And it from the opening kickoff, it just felt, and speaking of kickoffs, holy, Kenny Perry is my dude. I love him, and he's done a great job. Tech special teams has been really good, especially the last 2 years. But tonight, it was terrible. Whether it was the punter, Jack Burgess, or Dre McCray, it almost looked like he was throwing the game the way he tried to field that squib kick. That was just terrible. I praised him that ACU game. I mean, Tech doesn't win believe it or not, doesn't beat ACU if he doesn't have, the kind of impact he did in the return game in the season opener. But he really struggled, and it cost Tech. But I think more than anything, what cost Texas Tech today was 2 things. I think they got out-coached. The schematics, I felt like Baylor did, and then Texas Tech, they did a good job, both coaching staffs, of taking Ben Roberts and Jacob Rodriguez out of the game. They were non-factors in the game, and I think a lot of it was schematics. I don't think they just showed up not wanting to play, or I think it was Tech got out coached, and I believe the coaches would say that. I'm not just, it's the truth. But the players didn't play with a lot of emotion either, and I don't know if the two go together or what, but they didn't play with a lot of physicality. They flat out got pushed around, and it was a lot like 2 years ago, where it was like Baylor came in 2 years ago, and they weren't doing great either, and really pushed Tech around. I think they ran for like 230 something yards in that game, and Baylor did whatever they wanted to, really, on both sides of the ball tonight. I know Taj ended up with good stats, but he didn't even look like himself. Mighty Joe Yeager and I in the press box looked at each other like, what is wrong with Taj tonight? All of a sudden he didn't have very good vision. The timing was off in terms of, he does a very good job of being patient, and that helps him a lot. And he had some good runs. He's still Taj Brooks, but he was not as good as we're used to seeing Taj Brooks tonight. So Barron even threw his first interception in Big 12 play. I guess if you're looking for a bright spot, Caleb Douglas had a good game. I believe he had 3 touchdowns. Trying to think about anybody else. I mean, look, weren't a lot of bright spots. And I think schematically the coaches, they got worked, and I thought the players got worked physically. And so it's a whole team thing. I mean, I'm not going to sit here during the 4-game winning streak and say, yay, my philosophy is scream from the mountaintops when they win. And then when they lose, they win. It's like a performance like tonight. Like, they didn't play Texas. McGuire said it felt like Texas. Well, you didn't play that kind of talent in Texas, and he knows that. But you got worked in all 3 phases of the game, at home, on homecoming, both teams coming off a bye. But, you had a lot of good things going for you. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to divulge the entire conversation, but I ran to Kirby Hocutt after the press conference, and I don't have the vitriol. I understand the criticisms, and I think some of them are valid of Kirby Hocutt, but his biggest disappointment, other than player injuries, was just the team was just getting notice, good things said about the team and the program, all that stuff. And my thought is, I'm very disappointed with the performance tonight, but let's see what happens next week. I still think, I never thought this was going to be the team that goes to the Big 12 championship. People ask me on YouTube, on Inside the Red Raiders, hey, what's Texas Tech's record going to be this? And I said 8-4, and that's what I said in the preseason. That's what I believe. And people were like, well, where are the losses going to come from? I was like, I don't know, but this is not a 10-win team. I think you're going to see some of the younger talent really come to bear to the forefront in 25 and 26. And people don't want to hear that, and I understand. But that doesn't excuse the terrible and, Charles Barkley terrible performance tonight. I mean, this is a game on paper that Tech should have won, but let's see what happens next week in Fort Worth. And I just feel like I don't feel like we should. I was impressed with the 4-game winning streak. I was impressed with the way the team won, with great intensity, physicality, smart, efficient play, winning close games. I'm not going to, throw McGuire off the mountain or whatever you want to use, metaphor you want to use. I just don't feel like I'm not going to be overly emotional either way. I feel like I have a good handle on what this team is and what it's capable of. Maybe it'll be a game less, maybe it'll be a game more. That's football, that's life. But I had a bad feeling coming in this game. And I'm surprised by how thoroughly thrashed Texas Tech was, but I'm not surprised that they lost. I mean, you look at just BYU last night, was in a dogfight at home in a night game, nationally televised game against Oklahoma State, who's been struggling. They found a way to win. But I think the most surprising part is that you got pushed around. You got your ass kicked, let's be honest, at home by probably an inferior team, not tons in terms of talent, but in terms of the way you've been performing so far this year. So with that, I'm going to get into, we have already a lot of comments and I guess questions, probably more comments tonight, and that's fine. We'll dive into it here. But I just wanted to, get a couple of things off my chest right there in the beginning. Yes, cheers. It is definitely a whiskey night after that. Mike Bowers, my man, says, yeah, I'm furious. Yeah, man, you have every right to be. And don't get me wrong. Just me saying I personally am not going to go overly emotional with the loss, just like I didn't with the wins. Doesn't mean you shouldn't or can't or whatever, or feel however you feel about your fandom. And also it's the performance or lack thereof deserves that tonight. So I get it, man. Joel Himes says, yeah, yikes. I worried about this one as well. Good question to the coach tonight. Thank you. James Campbell said, bro, hard to watch. It was hard to watch, man. And honestly, normally when I see fans filing out, I'm like, come on, man, don't leave, especially if it's a 1 or 2 score game. But it was a blowout. I mean, the fourth quarter, it was funny as the Baylor has been a terrible fourth quarter team. And the fourth quarter was just I wish he'd kneel on the ball and just get out of here. I would have left. Let me tell you right now, I don't remember ever leaving as a student early. I'm sure I did, but I don't remember it. I don't think I haven't really left early a lot, period. Um, I don't. I mean, my thing kind of different just because I go to so many games because of what I do that I don't go as a fan as much. But I can't remember leaving early a lot. Just you spend all the time and money and all that to get there. Why leave early? But tonight I would have left early. I mean, that performance, the way it was going, I don't have to sit here and spend my time watching this fill in the blank. So it was hard to watch. Absolutely. CJ Stark said disaster class. Yeah, it was a disaster. I mean, I think the only times I get kind of like, what are you talking about? When people start talking about right now, oh, fire people. When the team is 5-2 and 3-1 in Big 12, they just had a 4-game winning streak and all that. I just don't understand all of that stuff and like the season's over. I think let's just look at it as what it is tonight. And what it was tonight was a total shit show. And if my language bothers y'all, oh well. To be quite honest, you go to a cleaner channel. But I feel like that's the most expressive word I could use. That's what it was tonight in all three phases. And again, the special teams was shocking to me. The defense schematically getting beat. Okay. I didn't like it. That's disappointing, but it should be talked about. But the lack of physicality and the lack of emotion, having Baylor come in. I mean, and you did it to Baylor last year. You went in there and pushed them around, kicked their butts in every phase of the game. But it's weird, 3 years in a row, the road team has gone to the other place, packed full of fans, and kicked that team's butt in front of their fans. But that's what we've had, especially after this game is a Jerry World or the Cotton Bowl for so long. That's just a really weird. And really, Tech should have won that one game during the Wells era where it was I don't remember the nonsense call. It was the fumble or not fumble or weird snap. Or I don't remember exactly what it was, but Tech had that game won and they got jobbed by the refs or something. It's weird that how these important plays at the time get lost in the agreement. I'm sure some of y'all out there remember exactly what it was, but Tech could have won in Waco not that long ago too to kind of really keep that streak going with the road team winning. But it's been 3 consecutive just blowouts, like the home team getting pants in this series, and that's just kind of weird. Don't Be a Puppet says this song is dedicated to Tech, the Great Pretender by the Planters. I think that's fair to say that tonight. I mean, they played like pretenders tonight. I don't personally. I believe they're 8-14, which would be the best season. Since 2009, maybe something like that. But it's still not like woohoo. It's a good building block type season is what I believe this roster to be. Like I've seen a lot of talks about like this team hadn't made progress, or this program hadn't made progress, and I find that it's my job, to detail recruiting, roster management, the team, and I mean. There was stretches where forget winning a bowl, just getting to be bowl eligible in the last 10, 12 years was no. And now they've been to 3 straight bowl games or a game away from being bowl eligible, and that's not good enough at this point. They need to win. Really, I think they need to win 8+ games this year to really feel like, okay, they're taking a step. And I think they're going to do that, but they sure didn't show that tonight. You start looking at the schedule. Iowa State there, I mean, that looks really tough. Colorado at home, I think that's a really bad matchup for Texas Tech. But TCU there, that becomes pivotal now. I mean, you got to go there and win that game. Home State there, that's not going to be easy, but is it doable? Yes. West Virginia in Lubbock, that's not a gimme either. West Virginia will come in and beat you if you play with the lack of physicality like you did today. So I think there are winnable games, but I think you have to play hard and well, and they need to scheme better. I did not like the defensive scheme tonight, and McGuire said in the postgame that it was really more on him than Tim DeRuyter, that he was insisting on some of those 3-man fronts and not shifting around a lot and sticking in. Whether it was McGuire or DeRuyter or both or whatever, it was. I mean, it didn't work. Let's be honest. But what's weird is that when they sold out and blitzed several guys, that didn't work either. Baylor just they knew it was coming. They diced them up, and They got to go back to the drawing board for sure. Kim Coulter said, Tim DeRuyter is the definition of insanity. Yeah, which I'm the definition of doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. I don't think that's what we've seen. I think, and I know you're a loyal Red Raider fan and you're emotional as a fanatic. I get it. But go back and watch the games again if you dare. Even the games they won, they haven't been doing the same thing. I just got done saying I didn't like what they did schematically tonight on defense. So, yeah, I think what I kept saying was, look, you don't have to either bring the house or just rush 3 and drop 8. Why not just bring 1 or 2 extra guys? Why not have 4 down? And I think they did that to start the second half, and they got off the field. And then that kind of went away. So, in part, I agree with you, but also in part, I'm like, no, they've changed things up this year at times for sure. CJ Stark says, I want to smash a glass table seeing Dre getting reps over Micah. Well, they play different positions, but I mean, come on, Micah's repped at inside receiver some too, so he could play there. I don't want to give you like coach speak answer. Micah should be playing more. I'm not going to go too crazy on that, but that's not why they lost tonight or anything like that, but Micah should be playing more. I'm just going to say that. They should, I feel like they tried to get him in the game some. Made that great catch. He had that one drop. They got him in a little earlier, but they got to find a way to get him involved because he's too talented. He is, And the earlier you get him seasoning, the quicker you'll see him become Micah Hudson for Texas Tech. So I'm with you. At this point, early in the season, I was kind of, but at this point, get Micah in the game, get him the ball, and let's see what he can do. Again, CJ Stark says, zero aura, zero energy from this team. No one has that swagger. No one feeds off each other. Okay. See, this is where I have a problem. Like, I don't know if it's just the internet or emotions of being a fan, but people go too far. You know what? My 12, soon to be 13-year-old son goes too far. I actually call him by his first name. In his middle name is Goes Too Far Johnson. He's a kid, and I get people like what makes an impact is just saying something. Oh, this is crazy. But it's not accurate. Like I don't, there was very little energy from Texas Tech tonight and today, but to say that as a whole, and that's what you meant, for the team overall, then that's just false. I mean, we've seen a lot of emotion starting with that during that win streak. And that's what, and I was criticizing, like, they haven't shown any emotion in the first 2 games. They haven't played with physicality. Started with North Texas and through Arizona, really, with the physicality was very impressive. They were feeding off each other. There was an aura. There was a formula. There was a level of physicality that we didn't see today at all. So if you're just talking about today, I agree with you. You're talking about this team overall, this wide sweeping statement, and I absolutely disagree with you. Kim Coulter said DeRuyter stubbornly I think you meant to say rushed only 3 guys the whole damn game. No, that's not true. Again, that's not true. The definition of insanity. No, he did a lot, and that didn't work. That's true. But even when they blitzed the house, like Baylor was ready. And there's a couple times that, honestly, if they were playing better teams with better skill position players, they would have housed it. Now, they put up 59 points, so they didn't have a problem scoring. But schematically, they were so beaten, the coaching staff, especially on defense tonight, but on both sides of the ball, all 3 phases of the game. But schematically, they were beaten so bad tonight in terms of Texas Tech's defense that it almost seemed to not matter what they did. There was no nuance. There was no disguising of what was happening. Baylor read them, like a child's book, like an idiot's guide to football. And that's the truth. But to say he just did that all night, again, is not true. It's just not right. AMAX says, long-suffering Tech fan at 50-plus years, been here before, too much inconsistency this year, and they could easily be 1-6. Well, it could easily be 1-6. That's true. But they're 5-2, and all the close games they've played in, they've won. I think not to give them credit for those wins is weird. I don't get that because they did win those games. And they made key plays at key times. And for example, against Arizona State, they took away their strength. They beat them at their own game. Cincinnati, you're taking away a heroic performance by Ben Roberts. Arizona, you're taking away a very good performance by Taj Brooks. Another heroic performance by Jacob Rodriguez. You're right to your fandom. I'm all for it. But I have a right to disagree with you based on what I've seen. And the fact that I devote a lot of time to this. Don't be a puppet says Killy is looking like he can't develop talent, evaluate talent, or use it. What is that based on? What is that based on? Taj Brooks hasn't been developed. I mean, we had Henry Colombi on our radio show earlier, and he talked about the growth of Taj, talked about the growth of Barron. Coy Aiken, does he not look better this year than he did the last 2 years? Some of these young offensive linemen, now, offensive line isn't great, but I do think overall so far through 7 games are better. Now, again, everything, if you're judging just by tonight, then no. But it's another oversweeping generalization I don't agree with. Kim Coulter says Aiken was open early on Barron's pick, but Barron was way late. Yeah, that was a terrible read and a terrible throw. They just fooled him, to be honest. All the way, that was just a poor decision and poor throw by Barron, who I think has been pretty dang good. He's definitely been efficient, especially in Big 12 play. Not spectacular, especially not by Texas Tech quarterback standards, but efficient enough to win up until tonight or today. James Campbell said, team seemed flat, no energy. Yeah, I agree. Again, Baylor came in and manhandled Tech, and that was the biggest surprise to me. Don't be a puppet. The Tech is middle pack at best. You might be right there. That's pretty much what I'm saying with 8-4. AMAC says another 7-5 at best. Yeah, that might be right too. Joel Heim, 7-8 wins. Yeah, that's probably. Don't be a puppet says weak schedule and 4-loss or 5-loss team. Okay. Kim Coulter says special teams mistake, punt return, TD, another fumble kickoff. That's a clear lack of focus. Yeah, I can't argue with that. That was terrible. That was an abomination. And special teams has been really good all year up until today. They were that terrible today. Joel Heim says, and that's an improvement. 7 to 8 wins. I mean, that's what they've been, 7 wins. I think 8 wins would be an improvement because they haven't done that since, again, 8 regular season wins since, I think, 2009 or something like that. So, I mean, that is an improvement. Glenn N says, 0 reason Micah shouldn't be starting. Well, I don't agree with that. Again, I absolutely think he should be playing more, but I don't know if he should be starting. AMAC says thrashed by Baylor. Geez. Yeah, I agree. John says, Baylor that good or are we that bad? Baylor was that good today, and Tech was that bad today. I don't think Baylor is that good or Tech is that bad, but they were today, and that's all that matters today. Don't be a puppet says Morton has regressed. How has he regressed? Kitley is a quarterback killer. Tyler looks like a different guy at Louisville. Is Tyler really doing that great at Louisville? Jim Zanaya says, go get some coaches and big linemen. Okay. Kim Coulter says, I went back to our tailgate midway in the third quarter, was both shocked and disgusted. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Kenneth North says, Micah Hudson had another nice catch. Yeah, I wanted to catch. That showed a little glimpse. I knew, I was like, man, fans would be like, why isn't he playing? He can do those kind of things that not that many guys can do. Micah should be playing more, period. I don't think he should be starting, but he should be playing more than he is, and they should make it a conscious decision to get him the ball. Nathan Edwards says, Tech players and coaches need to decide if they want this season to still be special or let this loss turn into a 6-6 season. I agree. I call it a crossroads. I think that's where sports, and I think football, for me at least, And basketball is my first love. I love basketball. I spent so much time playing, watching, talking about basketball in my life. It's really stupid how much of my life I've spent doing those things. But football, there's just something about it that is just a great metaphor for life. Like, I know it's such a cliche to say, like, oh, you learn so many things about life and all this, but really the in time, and maybe some of it's the violent nature. Like, maybe if you're from Minnesota, you feel the same way about hockey or something like that. But you really do. Like, people ask me, like, why do you let your son play football? It's violent. Well, you know what? Life is violent. Life is dangerous. Who said that life was supposed to be safe? Life isn't safe for any of us, and it's finite. And you could learn things playing football that I think you can't learn outside of football in terms of overcoming adversity. I know it's not what you mentioned or you asked about, but one of the things is like being a part of a big team and being so dependent on somebody else. Like in basketball, which I love, or baseball or softball or something like that, one player could really take over a game and dominate, and it's not quite so team dependent. Don't get me wrong. There's gonna be some coaches out there with sports like, hey, like when I love basketball and I hear it's the ultimate team sport. No, it's not. Not compared to football. You can have Patrick Mahomes back there, but if you have the worst defense in the history of college football, at best you're winning 7 games, as we know. Or bad offensive lineman go down the line. Basketball, you can have 2 B studs and 3 guys just playing their role who aren't very good, and you can get to the Final Four. That's just the truth. So I feel like they do have a decision to make. I said that to several people after the game, people heavily involved in Texas Tech's program, that let's see what they do next week and go into Fort Worth. And I do believe in the culture of this program. I do believe in the character of a lot of the guys on this team. And there have been teams here at Texas Tech I've covered that I couldn't say that about. It's hard just to be like, this team has poor character. That's really hard to tell somebody, but I've thought that before, and that's just not what I believe. Now, there was some real adversity tonight. And these guys have been told how great they were for several weeks. And then last 2 weeks with the bye week, fat little girlfriends, the Mike Leach infamous speech. I mean, that's really what it felt like. I think it was Baylor too. I think it was a close win over Baylor when he said that. Correct me if I'm wrong. But this was not a win. This was a blowout loss. It was an embarrassing loss, and they should be embarrassed. And I hope they respond to it. So they have a decision to make, just like you do in life. Nobody goes undefeated. All of us face adversity. And what are you going to do? You going to lay down? You going to give up? Or are you going to, lace the boots back up and get after it? So I think they're going to get after it. But I didn't think they were going to get blown out in homecoming against Baylor tonight either. So we'll see. James Core said, this is 100% a representation and reminder of what Tech and the brand currently are. Coaching exposed, players losing touch with reality, drinking the hype train juice. See, I think this is where, like, when I read this, it's hard for me to, like, have credibility, kind of like what I'm saying. Like, I think I disagree with you. I think college football is crazy. Football is crazy. That's why we watch. And I think they should be criticized for how they played tonight. And the coaches, absolutely. I mean, I get it. But to say this is 100% representation and reminder of what the Tech brand currently are, no, I disagree. I think that's ridiculous. Jarrett says, where do you see 3 wins left in the schedule? I think TCU is a possible win. I think West Virginia in the season finale is a possible win. And then you have Iowa State there. Looks really tough. Oklahoma State there doesn't look tough, but it's not going to be easy. Can't play like you did tonight. And in Colorado, you're at home, so you have a chance. I think it's a bad matchup. So I think between Colorado at home and Oklahoma State there, I think there's a possibility. But I do think you could beat TCU there. I'm not saying that's a gimme at all or anything close to that. Same thing with West Virginia. But, yeah, I think there's at least 3 winnable games on the schedule. I think if you look at it without your emotion, If you don't have an agenda, which I don't, other than to tell it how I see it, I think that's easy to see. But they got to do it. Again, goes back to the decision. Are you going to man up? You're going to give up? Let it get you down? All that stuff. Thomas Gilbreth says, looked like a young team that came in overconfident and then got punched in the mouth and couldn't recover. Sucked to see, but still looking forward to the future of this team. Guns up. Same. They got punched in the mouth. And like Mike Tyson infamously said, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And I think these are the type of dudes that will respond. And I think it just got rolling tonight where throwing the special teams. And then again, I do think they got out coached schematically on defense. I think Tech's offense would make some plays and cut it to 3 points. And then the defense, like, just could not ever catch up. And I do think, going back to what Kim Coulter said, the 3-man rush clearly did not work. It just did. Sawyer Robertson just picked. He sat back there. He was like, first read, no. Okay, second read, no. Third read, oh, he's open. I mean, he was bouncing around, looking around. I mean, he had it all day. So that didn't work. And then when they did blitz the house, it was clearly coming. They drop it off to a running back or drop it off to a receiver on a hot route, and it was a big gain. So yeah, schematically they got whipped. There's no doubt. But I mean, that happens, especially in big boy football. So let's see if the coaches and the players can respond next week. Nathan Edwards said, I'd love to hear about the team having a players-only meeting to figure this out to save the season. Yeah, I mean, it could be – it seems kind of overly dramatic. They need to bounce back. They need to come up with a better plan for next week. And then whether it be don't get too overhyped or don't they got to play with the right level of emotion and physicality. And some of it may have been they weren't in the right place to in order to be physical. But some of it, too, was it didn't feel right. It didn't look right. And a lot of people have said that. Like, I said that, and I've been saying that. Head coach said that there was something weird tonight. And whatever. You still got to man up and play. And they just, whether it be special teams that always plays great. Taj didn't even look like himself for some of it. Whatever. They gotta get right for sure. Amex says, I see 1 or 2 wins max. Okay, cool. Brian Toplaspar says the best our offense looked was when Morton did not have the ball in his hands. If you mean it was in Taj's hand. Oh, what's his name? Jalen Conyers threw that touchdown. Yeah. I mean, Barron did have a couple of touchdowns. I understand Texas Tech fans being tough on Tech quarterbacks. I just feel like Barron's been good enough to win ball games this year. And there's no reason for me to defend him other than this is what I really believe. He hasn't been great, but he's been solid. Tech didn't lose because of Barron Morton tonight. Like, you're never going to convince me of that. Nathan Edwards says the team I believe, is still super young and needs a complete overhaul on the defensive line. We have 0 pass rushes that player or coaching issue. It's both, for sure. KCM says, Jarrett, you're a bold man for doing one of these. Like, man, this ain't – what's funny is, like, when I first started out in journalism, I was in South Texas, in Brownsville, Texas, at the Brownsville Herald newspaper. And what's weird is, I got a lot of criticism down there. This show you how long ago it was. Like, I remember showing up, and most, if you're in sports journalism newspapers back in the day, it was like the beat was basically you show up around 3 o'clock and it's like to midnight or 1, right? And whether you're going out, you come back, all that stuff. And I remember going and clicking. It was like 24-year-old sports editor there after starting off there. And I remember clicking the messages. That's what I do when I first got there. We had like a message machine, a phone machine. And I would get death threats because of my picks and my takes down there. And I love my time down there. Salt of the earth people for the most part. But man, there was emotional people. So this isn't my first rodeo. I believe specifically the culture of Texas Tech and West Texas is being up front, trying to call it like it is. I'm wrong. I'm wrong a lot. But I do try to say what I believe I'm seeing and what I believe is happening. Sometimes, most of the time, I piss off the team and the fans. like for different reasons. But I do believe that through time, that most people know that I don't have an agenda. I'm not scared of the coaches. They don't control my destiny. I'm not scared of the administration of Texas Tech. They don't control my destiny. I'm not scared of pissing off fans. Yeah, a little bit control my destiny. I need that customer. I appreciate y'all. I need the customers. But I also believe, like, if you're a West Texan, if you're a Texas Tech fan, you don't want me blowing smoke up your ass. You don't. You want me to tell it like it is, at least what I truly believe. So I'm not. This doesn't scare me. I know you said kind of tongue in cheek, but I've been following Texas Tech for a long time, and it's I really believe this about being a fan and being true to who you follow, and you don't jump on bandwagons. You stay true, no matter how much you fly off the handle against them, and that makes the payoff so much sweeter. My biggest example of that is being a Dallas Mavericks fan. Growing up in the '90s and all that. And the Mavericks being the worst professional sports franchise in North America, and then them winning an NBA championship, and how sweet that was. I mean, that was one of the best nights of my life. With, like, my best friend, my brother, all of us Dallasites and Mav fans for life. And growing up, like, I went to Mav games before I could walk, stuff like that. And there's a lot of Texas Tech fans out there like that. And I really hope in your lifetime that you get that big payoff. I really do. And I hope I'm there to document it for you. They are not close right now. They're close to, I think, to having a quality season that could be a building block. But hanging banners, that's not it. I never thought that was going to be it this year. And today was further evidence of that, to be honest. Stephanie Roden says, I'm done with Tech football, 22 years of the same stuff. I mean, that is your choice. CJ Stark, that's the most accurate thing I've seen. I don't know if today was, unless it's just like, Red, what's his name? Red Sanford and Sons. Where this finally did it, like them playing so poorly. But all those close games was, I think, checking on the old ticker. But that's what he said was these games need a disclaimer for people with heart conditions so they could be prepared. Stephanie Roden says, it's not Lubbock. They have nothing in Nebraska or Aggieland. Look at them. You see what Nebraska did today? You see what Indiana did to them? I'm just saying. KCM said Barron was staring at him that play. Yeah, that was a terrible throw, terrible decision all the way around by Barron. I mean, there's no defending that play. That's terrible. AMAC says Iowa State trailing UCF late in the fourth. This could be a really bad day for the conference. Yeah, this conference was always going to beat each other up. BYU should have lost last night, really. Jason Bob Gardner says, thanks for doing this, man. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. This is an honor and a privilege to get to do what I do. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I really, truly sincerely believe that. Wait, says, did you exceed the 30-minute time limit 2 weeks ago? No wonder we were off today. On to TCU. You know what? Then I know you're joking, but man, on Inside the Red Raiders, people were, the media, our staff was yelling at me about something somebody said a month ago. I was like, first off, I don't yell at my customers. That's dumb. I don't do that. If I disagree with people, they seem to take it harder than other people, or maybe, I don't know, I just have a way of saying it, but I'm not going to yell at y'all. I mean, specifically VIPs on Inside the Red Raiders, people paying monthly subscriptions. Like, that's just not going to happen. But inevitably, the media gets blamed. Like, somebody said, like, we're just going to give them the coaches reach arounds, and I can't even say other stuff. They said, I was like, I'm not going to throw my shoe at the coaches, but I did ask Coach, like, hey, why did you get pushed around as the head coach? Like, you need to answer for that. And he gave me an answer. I don't know, it's a good enough answer, but honestly, at some point, what can you say? It doesn't matter. Like, even if it's somebody I don't like, and I personally like Joey McGuire, I do. It doesn't mean like I personally like Matt Wells. I do. I know that is the worst. And then this is going to freak people out, but there are some reasons why I like Chris Beard. I'm not going to be fake about that. Now, I don't agree. Like, I think Matt Wells was not a good in-game coach, and I think it was time to go. I don't like the way Chris Beard left Texas Tech, but I just don't see it black and white like a lot of people do. And I'm not going to throw my shoe. I will ask some leading questions. I can't help it, but I'm not going to basically say, you suck. Why do you suck? Which is what I think fans want me to ask. And that's not how this game works. I mean, that's what fans say, not and man, I'm down on this is an overreaching comment, but I'm down on media, big time media, and all that established media as much as anybody. Don't get me wrong, but at least for what I try and do, the standards I try and hold in my little small fishbowl in my little world, I try and call it like it is. I try and hold the coaches to a standard I believe that I can sleep at night and respect myself, but also look my customers in the eye. And I think if you can see it from that prism instead of just your own emotional prism of wanting me to throw my shoe at them, I think that makes sense, but maybe it doesn't. I don't know. King Sultan says, I look forward to Tech bouncing back. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm looking forward to the drama of will they or will they not? If that makes sense. Like, I wanted to see what was going to happen tonight. I couldn't wait to get more input. Like, what's next on this team? Now, I was regretting that midway through the third quarter. Like, oh, okay, I've seen enough. I know what this input is. But I am looking forward to what they do next. So, and hopefully, like you said, it's bouncing back. Kim Coulter says, I never let a football game define my life or happiness, so we move on. Okay, that's cool. Kenneth North says, I think the bye stalled the momentum. I mean, clearly, and it happens. I think Tech was 2-0 prior to this game under McGuire coming out of the bye, but that got blown out of the water. Nathan Edwards says, is it me or is Caleb Rogers constantly getting beat and constantly penalized? He's not very good. Calling it like it is. He's the team captain. He's played forever. He's not very good. Glenn N says, it's crazy how stagnant the play calling gets at times, or maybe we need better personnel to execute, but I think it's the former. I mean, it was both tonight. Don't be a puppet says, Kidley didn't develop Taj. Taj was a good back before Kidley. He didn't really start using him until the QBs were injured last year. Well, I mean, the prior coaching staff was starting Sir Roderick, who's a very good running back as well. So, I mean, nobody has used Taj more than Kidley for whatever reason. People start throwing these stipulations out here just to prove their point. I'm not trying to prove my point. You just got to get – at some point, you got to give guys credit. Like, people say, he doesn't develop anybody. Well, has Taj Brooks ever produced at a higher rate than under Zach Kidley? True or false? True or false? I mean, come on. Just call it like it is. Quit trying to just support your own argument all the time. That's a big problem with just our society and the internet right now at all. Like if you say something that makes me change my mind, I'm going to think about it and be like, you know what? I think you're right. But it's really hard to find that. People just like, oh, no, just want to argue their point. I mean, yes, Taj Brooks was always good. He's always been a good player. But let's just say perhaps Zach Kidley has done the best job that we have seen so far of getting the most out of Taj Brooks. I mean, the numbers tell it. Stephanie says the bye week is just an excuse. Yeah, then maybe. I don't have a problem with that. TTU fan 1111 says Joey looked like he was going to puke during the press conference. Yeah. He actually looked at me. I don't know if you saw when he says, your point of physicality. He was looking at me and he goes, and I don't remember exactly what he said, but something to the fact is we didn't play physical football tonight. And this is the look I gave. I told my girlfriend, I said, I wasn't gonna lie. I was like, no, you didn't play physical, because they didn't. And I'm not gonna act like make excuses. Like, Tech got pushed around. Baylor came in and bullied Texas Tech tonight. Period. Was it because Baylor had a bye week? Baylor had lost 8 Big 12 games in a row before this. 8 going back to last season. And I didn't think they were as bad as a record this year, but they came in and pushed you around on your homecoming when you were trying to really build something. Just when, as Kirby Hogan said, just when people, and this is important, we're really starting to say good things about you. Bye week isn't, bye week is an excuse, and Joey looked like he was going to puke because it was a performance that made, I think, all of us feel like we want to puke. Man, don't be a puppet. You have a lot to say. Yep, 40 years of Tech has never been able to step above the average at best, minus some years of 2 or 3 losses decades ago. Stephanie Roden says Taj is the best, but the coaches just give it to him, and the other team knows it, and the coaches make big money. Okay. Nathan Edwards says whole team tonight felt really tight, like they were feeling all the pressure from the success. Seemed like the whole team was running insane and just playing slow. Yeah, well, they need to freaking wake up. Man up. This is your job now. You're not just students. You are literally getting paid, and a lot of people depend on it, and that's life. You got to step up. Now, Baylor needed to step up tonight too, and they did. So Nathan Edwards says, if Taj breaks the all-time record, do we see an immediate shift to a 50-50 split with Taj? No. They're running Taj because they want to win. That's why they're running Taj. They want him to get the record, but no. Florida Raiders says 3-man pass rush makes me ill. Yeah, me too. I'm not a big fan of it. It seems like a prevent. I don't mind using it sometimes situationally, because it's not just a prevent. I get why people say that, but no, man, that was a mistake tonight, clearly. Don't be a puppet says, what's your bourbon of choice? Ooh, man, what you got? No, I'm just kidding. Bourbon is my drink of choice. I tell you the drink that the bottle I get where I was actually talking with Mighty Joe about earlier that I don't get it for one because they raise the price and I feel guilty with my family. It doesn't even matter even if I made more money than I do, I feel like, dang, I'm spending too much money on this. But just because I love it so much, I can't keep it in the house. Meaning even if I buy it for myself, it's going to be gone in like 3 days, and that's Woodford, not just Woodford Reserve, but the double oaked. It's got a nice oaky finish, and I'm not really that big into this normally, but it's got a dark chocolatey kind of finish at the end. It just, man, I don't know what to say. Trips my trigger. It's really good. Team Crop Dusters, one of my favorite commenters here, says, sup, Jarrett? Rough day, brother. We got beaten all 3 phases here. Yeah, no, Tech got beat all 3 phases, period. No excuses for the coaches. No excuses for the players, period. That is a true statement. James Campbell says, yeah, brother, I'm joking. Thanks for what you do. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Like I said, I really do believe this is an honor and privilege. I put in a lot of work, and a lot of people have sacrificed for me to get to do this and get paid for it. It's unbelievable. Thomas Gilbreth says, always appreciate your takes. Honestly, Jay, keep up the good work, man. As long as y'all will listen, I will be here. I really appreciate it. Russ Gutter says, the energy was horrible. Morton is late, no rush. Huge cushion for receivers. Special teams was a disaster. Defensive ends can't contain ever. Just sad all over. We aren't good. Let me see. Energy was horrible. I agree. Morton is late. Yeah, that is a thing with him. I do agree with that. No rush. I agree. Huge cushion for receivers. Other than Braylon Lux, I agree. Special teams was a disaster. Double check there. Defensive ends can't contain ever. I'm going to have to watch the game. I don't know if that's true, but they definitely have their challenges. Just sad all over. We aren't good. Well, I don't know. I think Tech's good enough to win 8 games. Is that good or not? It's not for me to tell you. I think so, but Amex said Iowa State scored TD with 30 seconds left. Man, I should have been watching this game. Billy Blueheart says, has Caleb Rogers been our worst starting offensive line for 4 years in a row? I don't think that's an exaggeration. I don't know if he's been the worst every year. And he's made some strides here and there. Let's just say this. I think he's been an average at best offensive lineman. Or you could say this: the fact that he started 4 years in a row says a lot about the state of your offensive line over that time, and that's harsh. I know, I get it. But I'm trying to be honest. There's several times like, "Hey, Roger, shook my head tonight," and that seems to happen a lot. I don't think that's a crazy over exaggeration what you said. Jason Bob Garner says, "What are the pieces you think Tech needs to start hanging banner?" Yeah, they got to keep stacking better recruiting classes. And I know a lot of people look at the ranking of the current class, and it's not as good as 2024 by any metric, but it's not as high in numbers, and that was by design. They knew that, and I can say that till I'm blue in the face, but people just won't listen. I don't understand why. But this is not a bad class, 2025. I like it. It's not, oh my God, amazing, but it's pretty good. They need to improve offensive line, and they're in the process of doing that. Actually asked Zach Kitley about the young offensive linemen that are showing up in the 2 deep. I said, when do you expect these really good? They had 2 very good, especially by Texas Tech standards, but by anybody in the Big 12 standards, 2 very good offensive line recruiting classes back-to-back, 23 and 24. So when should we expect to start seeing them make a huge impact on Saturdays? And he said, I thought this was very telling. I should have written a story about it. Man, I got caught up in everything. He said that he's old-fashioned, that he does not like to play offensive linemen until their 3rd year in Division I football or out of high school. So like redshirt sophomore. And honestly, I kind of agree with that. There could be the anomaly, some freak, but generally speaking, I agree with that. So I think that's why I was saying 25 and 26 when we'll start seeing a difference. You're also getting, people don't agree with this, but you're getting bigger and faster on defense. A lot of those guys are younger. It's going to take a year or so. So I really think in 25 and 26 we'll start seeing it. If we don't see them start really taking a leap, then that's when you start saying, like, what's going on? I'm not saying fire everybody, but I'm just saying I think then it'll be times to reevaluate what is the trajectory of this program. Gene Crop Duster says Caleb isn't good, but the O-line as a whole isn't either. Hopefully the 24 class recruits develop in the next couple of years. Yeah, that's what I was just talking about. Don't Be a Puppet says that is a good bourbon. Knob Creek. Yeah, Knob Creek 12. Yeah, nice. Yeah, I like that. I'm just drinking straight up Makers. I'm going like, blue collar. That's that's kind of my right now. That's kind of my like. I don't feel so guilty about baby needs a new pair of shoes, but I'm drinking whiskey instead. I mean, that's really hard for me to be okay with. If I continually get like that Woodford Double O used to be just like I can't remember the exact proportion, but like $35. But it was never on the shelves because people were like, dang, that's a good price for that, and it was selling like crazy, and they raised it significantly. So I was like, this is just out of principle. Like, come on, man, like, you can't be that guy. Baby needs a new pair of shoes, but you're drinking the whiskey instead. That's not cool. So I try and be economic about it at least. But daddy needs his bourbon too. You know what I mean? Casey says the players are feeling the pain, y'all. They've responded before. Let's see what they look like at TCU. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, like, they're humans. I mean, they got out-coached. They got outplayed. It happens. And Baylor was desperate for a win. And they played like it. Tech did not play like Tech played against North Texas, even like they were desperate. They played like against Arizona State, like their lives depend on it. Even at Arizona, and then in Cincinnati, they made some plays, did some things. They played like desperate, like balls to the wall, leave it all out there, and they needed every one of those plays to win those games. Tonight, they've showed up like, and it's so cliche, but they showed up like, we're Texas Tech, we're 3-0, Baylor's 0-3. What's up? We're going to crush them, And Baylor came out like, we have to win this game. No matter what, we're not leaving Lubbock without a win. And boy, I mean, we saw the results of that. So let's see Texas Tech. I mean, all y'all are telling them how terrible they are and they should fire the coaches and the players have no heart and all that stuff, which is, you're right. But maybe they'll respond to that. Maybe they won't. We're going to find out. Iowa State wins, interception to end it. All right, speaking of ending it, let's see. Solly Earth says a high school coach coaching college. Well, that just shows you have no idea what the hell you're talking about. And I'm going to end it right there. Thank y'all very much for watching. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your comments. I'll be back next week, win or lose. We'll see how it goes. But again, thank you for being on, and hopefully we'll have better things to talk about next week.